Yo, this is the show. This is Ron the Show Hughley along with Steven Serta.
Hi.
Okay. We're going to knock this out on the website here, 610sports.com. You can find all your news and notes from OTAs to anything that's going on in the sports world, especially locally here for you. I just want to jump on this thing. The big story locally has been Jeremy Maclin. And we talked about this a bit yesterday on our show. You can catch every Sunday from 10 to 12. And I just left the day shift talking about this. The bigger point is we had conversations between us when we were discussing how we were going to attack this Macklin thing. And Colin Cowherd has been real huge on this for about a year. That wide receivers essentially in today's NFL are luxury items. And there are not a lot of wide receivers. You think about it in your head. How many wide receivers out there right now that are so great that they, one, are bigger than the quarterback they have, or more important than the quarterback they have, or two, affect winning so much? Like Odell Beckham may be the best receiver in the league. They've never been to a playoff game. And Julio Jones, who I think may be – they've never won a playoff game, the Giants. Julio Jones, he got to the Super Bowl this year, but they have had struggles, and he is, I think, bigger than Matt Ryan or more important than Matt Ryan. It's just like Antonio Brown we discussed. I don't think every time Ben gets hurt, Antonio Brown is not the same productive player. So I think we got to get our head around what the actual receiver is in today's NFL. And Macklin's a number one receiver, but the quarterback is far more important. The quarterback makes receivers. We look at Detroit. Look how much better the Lions have been and what receivers Matt Stafford has to work with.
Last year Matt Stafford had a really good year last year without Calvin Johnson, but he was spreading the football around more. He wasn't just trying to key in on Megatron all the time. But there's a few guys that I think can be franchise-changing players, but the thing with the wide receiver position is that it's so dependent on who is getting the football from under center. Like there's guys who transcend quarterback play, like that are so talented it doesn't matter. As long as you throw the football in their general direction, they can make something happen.
But there's not a lot of guys that pre-snap today, maybe Julio and Odell, pre-snap. Pre-snap in the day, Randy Moss would just have your complete secondary and defense in shambles, ready. Everyone's keyed to that side of the field. Everyone's over here.
Even Randy at the end of his career with the 49ers and Jim Harbaugh, they would only put him in certain situations, and they'd just say, go long, and they'd just throw it deep to him, and he had a few deep touchdowns that year.
Yeah, Randy would command an entire side of the field. And he was as big as Brady was when Brady was there. Like, he made things so much more easier for Brady. We just don't have that much. Julio may be the closest. So we're getting a little upset about Jeremy Maclin and stuff. I agree with Colin Cowherd. I think receivers are essentially, as we've said before, like the NBA big men, like a luxury item. Like, they don't impact winning as much as they used to. So.
It's, like a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who I was convinced a couple years ago was the type of guy that was talented enough to transcend his quarterback play. He had the best season of his career with Brian Hoyer.
Not with Brock.
But with Brock, it was more a case of Brock just wasn't throwing him the football because Brock was he was just afraid to throw downfield most of the time, and he was just terrible. Like Brian Hoyer was average enough to get DeAndre Hopkins the ball.
But even still with Brock, Hopkins still didn't make it so much easier that other players on the other side were wide open too.
And that's kind of what I'm getting to is that DeAndre Hopkins is an incredibly talented player, but the Texans aren't going to. Right now, it's all about Deshaun Watson now for Houston. Like if DeAndre Hopkins isn't happy with his contract here in a couple of years, they aren't going to do everything they can to keep DeAndre Hopkins, because if Deshaun Watson becomes their franchise quarterback, you can make do with what you already have, and you've got a developmental Braxton Miller, and you've got Will Fuller and those guys. Like, you can get by with wide receivers that are middle of the pack.
essentially, if you are a family and you got 4 kids, you know, get that SUV. You can get a two-seater Corvette, but it's a luxury. It's not a need, and that's pretty much what receivers have been. All right, check us out Monday through Friday when the Royals aren't playing 6 to 9, and Sundays from 10 to 12. The show, Ron the Show Hughley and Steven Serter. We are